Many thanks for your time on News Desk this morning. To our very first story, and citizen vigilante Martin ABK Amidu is accusing government of shielding some corrupt politicians who are allegedly caught in ANAS's latest expose on corruption. According to Mr. Amidu, government's decision to expose corruption in the judiciary while covering up corrupt acts of some politicians suggests a deliberate attempt to misdirect the focus of the Ghanaian public. My colleague Jaunyan has read the full piece by Mr. Amidu and joins me now in studio with more on what it says. So, Jao joins me now. Jao, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Chenche.
So, what does Mr. Amidu mean by protecting corrupt politicians in the country?
Well, the whole article is sort of a backhanded compliment at ANAS's expose on the judicial bribery scandal. He's saying that government is basically using the proof of corruption and bribery in the judiciary to deflect or to distract Ghanaians from the fact that the political arm of government still remains very corrupt. He harks back to the Wayome case and Isofoton case and asks where the money that these the two defendants were supposed to pay back to government, where those monies are. He also says that this judicial corruption scandal, the investigations were commissioned by former President John Evans Atta Mills, and in addition to an investigation into the judiciary and finding proof for corruption, which has always been a suspicion against the judiciary. Anas and his team were also supposed to investigate Parliament. And according to Martin Amidu, that documentary is done. I'm quoting from his statement that one of those videos is ready, available to the government, and has, with his permission, been viewed secretly by the leadership of one branch of government. So he's saying there's a second documentary that deals specifically with political corruption, but that has been suppressed because the documentary was actually commissioned by political powers. And he also brings to the fact that he sort of questions the purpose or the motives behind Anas's documentaries, and he's basically challenging him to prove his integrity by making known to everybody all these documentaries and also the unedited footage of the judicial bribery scandal. He believes that by showing Ghanaians the full footage, especially of those judges who they said actually refused the bribe, it would actually also help proof that Anas is basically he's free of any kind of corruption himself. He labels it as a for-profit anti-corruption movement, or as he puts it, anti-corruptionpreneurs, meaning that they're not doing this in his way, in his mind, for the love of the country or because they want to make sure that corruption is stamped out, but because now they become sort of commissioned anti-corruption campaigners. And without that independence, it brings the integrity of Anas and his Tiger IPI to question.
So essentially, he's now questioning Anas's integrity.
He's actually questioning the integrity. He says it is therefore in the interest of the integrity of the petitioners, and here he's talking about Anas and Tiger IPI, who petitioned the CJ following the judicial corruption scandal, to ensure that the wishes of the late Professor Mills are carried out to the full before Providence reveals them as a for-profit anti-corruptionpreneurs, that word is very difficult to pronounce, anti-corruptionpreneurs collaborating with established security agencies without any integrity themselves. And he quotes, Caesar's wife must be above suspicion.
So, quite a number of allegations there, but what else does it say?
It also talks about the fact that as Attorney General, he had suspicions that the judiciary had been compromised. For him, it comes as no surprise at all that it's found that the judiciary, there's corruption within the judiciary. He says he had gone to the Supreme Court to nullify some of the decisions that were taken that were taken by some judges he suspected being corruptible. And he also had contentions that, in fact, some of the culprits that were let free, some of those cases should have gone the other way. But always the problem came back to proof, because it was just a perception. There was no proof. And he also talks about the fact that people are questioning how this proof was acquired. You have some justices that are out there saying that it's been an infringement of the privacy, and that because the evidence was illegally acquired, it is not admissible. And he cites several cases, both in Ghana and abroad, that for him proves that it is that kind of evidence should be admissible, because for him, the disciplinary process first to restore the image of the system is more important than actually trying to get a criminal case or referring this back to the police. For him, he thinks that the evidence provided by Anas is enough to at least discipline the judges found culpable.
Wow. Jawanyan, many thanks for your time on News Desk. And Jawanyan is my colleague here at Joy News, and she brought us the full piece of that particular writer by former Attorney General Martin ABK Amidu. We'll bring you much more on this, particularly on the Pulse, our news analysis program at 3 p.m. right here on this channel. Now, a group calling itself the Coalition for Free, Fair and Transparent Elections is calling on the Electoral Commission to disclose within 3 weeks its budget and audited reports on the 1992 to 2012 general and parliamentary elections. The group is also demanding the EC reveals the total cost and breakdown of the recently held forum for political parties and civil society groups on the voters' register. Kenneth Ejay Kranche is national president of the group Free, Fair and Transparent Elections and joins me on phone with more on this. Mr. Kranche, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Good morning, my brother.
So, why the sudden interest in the EC's audited reports on elections in the country?
Well, our concern is arising principally because of certain things that have come up of late. If you remember, during the recent forum on the voters' register, the EC invited some political parties to be present at the forum. Now, it has come to our knowledge, and in fact, it is the case, that every year the Electoral Commission goes to Parliament to requisition money to go on inspection of political party premises across the nation. So the EC is aware that, in fact, parties like the IPP, Independent People's Party, do not have a single office in this country, and therefore do not qualify to be called political parties. Now, if the EC goes ahead to invite these organizations which are not on the ground but are pretending to be political parties, the next thing you can summarize or conclude is that the EC actually collected money from government, collected money from the people of this country, but did not go on the inspection tour. Now, I have constantly said that if I have somebody going to organize 1,000 separate activities or operations for me, and it turns out that that person on one particular occasion took the money but failed to deliver on the mandate given to the person, I have a reason to question the 1,000 other activities that the person engaged in. So this is the point we are making, that if the Electoral Commission collected money to go on a national inspection but failed to do that, then definitely we need to also begin to look at all the activities of the Electoral Commission over the period, starting from 1992, to find out whether when they ask for money to do certain things, they actually do what they set out to do. So yes, ask for the budget, and then ask for the auditor report as well. And for me, it's a call that everybody should back, because we have been funding the Electoral Commission and funding electoral activities since 1993, and really we've not been supplied with any audit reports as how that money was spent, whether it was diligently spent or it was not diligently spent. It's something that we should be tested in. Secondly, we are also making the call on the Electoral Commission to provide the Ghanaians with an itemized bill for the itemized proposal for the conduct of elections 2016. Because we have heard that the Electoral Commission is demanding an amount of 1.7 billion for the first round of elections, and if it goes into a second round, an amount of 2.3 billion. Now, if you come back to the 1.7 billion Ghana, it is 1.7 trillion in the old currency. You are talking about spending about $30 per individual voter. If you are using a base figure of, let's say, 14 million people voting, you are saying the Electoral Commission proposing to spend $30 on each person per one vote, using a figure of 14 million people. And you think $30 per vote really is a bit exorbitant, because the international average takes $7 per person. So they need to provide us with an itemized bill, itemized proposal of why they are requiring the people of Ghana to pay $425 million.
Mr. Kranche, let me ask, what do you really intend doing with the bills and with the audited reports once you get them?
We are going to do a study of them. We are going to work with Joy FM and other media, and everybody who is interested, whether the people of this country are getting value for money. Because if the EC were supposed, for instance, to tell us why they require $425 million for the first round of elections in 2016, you and I would sit down, whether the printing cost is value for money, whether the money they are using for value for money, whatever they are with the printing, their equipment, whether we are really getting value for money. Because the way things are going, it's like they are there, they just demand money, we give them the money, and then they go and close their doors and do whatever they like inside there. And it's not meeting the required transparency measures as far as transparency standards as far as they are concerned.
So now, as things stand now, you have given the Electoral Commission a 21-day ultimatum, by which time, what do you really hope to do? Assuming after the 21-day period you are stipulating here, the EC is unable or refuses to actually heed to your call, what happens next?
I would be surprised if the Electoral Commission were to blatantly refuse to heed to our call, because these are documentations that they already have. They have their budget is there. They should be sitting on themselves. They should also be having their audited report. Okay, so they cannot really find a legitimate reason, and they cannot even hide behind the so-called independence and say that we are independent. If you are independent, that doesn't mean you are financially independent. We pay for you. If you pay for your fund, you must be able to account for that this is the money we got, this is how we use the money. So they do not have any legitimate reason to say they are not going to provide this information to the people of this country. One, if they refuse to do that, in 21 days, we shall take action that we believe will bring further pressure on the Electoral Commission, because you see, they have to be accountable to civil society and to the people of this country.
So if you speak of taking action, what particular action are you speaking of? Is it about a protest march?
Because of the surprise element, we want to keep that part of the action silent until the 21 days have expired. But I would really be surprised if the Electoral Commission insists on not being accountable, because it has to be accountable for the sake of its own image.
Right. Many thanks for your time, Kenneth J. Crunchy. And Ken Crunchy
I'm very grateful.
is national president of the group calling itself the Coalition for Free, Fair and Transparent Elections. What they're doing now is that they've given the Electoral Commission a 21-day ultimatum to come clear on a number of things, particularly the amount of money that has been spent on elections in the country since 1992. Also, they are seeking a breakdown of how the EC plans on spending the money is asking for the next general elections as well. We'll bring you much more on this as and when we do have that. But moving on to other issues now, and the New Crusading Guide newspaper is reporting the Accra Metropolitan Assembly has cleared retail center Melcom Plus to operate after it was reported in the media that there were deepening cracks in series of columns of the company's building at North Industrial Area here in Accra. Now, owing to the media reports, the chief executive of Accra Metropolitan Assembly, Dr. Alfred Okovandapoy, and a technical team from the Metro Works Department visited the location and met with the management of the company to have first-hand information of the situation. After a walk-through visual inspection of the building and a brief technical meeting, the mayor announced that in the interest of all parties concerned, all necessary procedures that would ensure the structural safety of the building and had not been compromised would be undertaken and followed. An engineer contracted to make a thorough assessment of the structure said the building is structurally sound and safe for use as intended, contrary to the news item that portrayed the Melcom Plus building as being unsafe for use. And there's much more on this on our news analysis program at 3 p.m. That's the Pulse. We're taking a break here on News Desk. When we come back, we'll bring you a lot more stories. Don't go away.